Today, we're diving into something pretty amazing. It's a compound that feels like it's pulled from an ancient playbook, but is now at the cutting edge of modern science. We are talking about berberine, and specifically how researchers are discovering its incredibly sophisticated strategy in the fight against cancer.
So that's the big question, right? How can a compound from a plant possibly go head-to-head with something as complicated and, frankly, as terrifying as cancer? Well, the answer is just fascinating. It all comes down to a multi-pronged attack on the one thing cancer cells crave most, their fuel.
So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is this stuff? What is this potent plant compound that has the entire scientific community buzzing? Okay, so berberine is what's called a botanical alkaloid, basically a natural compound found in a bunch of different plants. But the really important words here are multi-targeted and antineoplastic, which is just a fancy way of saying anti-cancer. This isn't some single-shot weapon. Think of it more like a Swiss Army knife that wages war on cancer from multiple angles by messing with its most basic survival functions. Now, to really get how berberine works, we first have to understand the enemy. And you can think of a cancer cell as this tiny, aggressive fortress with a completely ravenous, just insatiable appetite for energy. It needs a constant supply of fuel to grow, to divide, and to spread. So here's a look inside the cancer cell's command center. What these cells do is they hijack these critical signaling pathways. You see them here, PI3K/AKT/mTOR. Now, you can think of these as the on switches or the gas pedal for cell growth. Cancer basically hotwires these switches, flips them permanently to on, and puts its growth and energy consumption into absolute overdrive. All right, so if cancer is a fortress with a never-ending fuel shipment coming in, berberine's main strategy is just brilliant. It lays siege. It doesn't waste time attacking the walls. It goes right for the supply lines and systematically cuts off the fuel. This is the core of how it works. It triggers the cell's low fuel sensor, a pathway called AMPK, which basically tells the cell, hey, we're in starvation mode. At the exact same time, it slams the brakes on those hijacked growth pathways we just talked about, the mTOR and PI3K/AKT. The result? It's simple, but it's devastating. The cancer cell is starved of energy. Now, to really put this into perspective, let's compare berberine to the well-known diabetes drug metformin, which is also studied for cancer. As you can see, their game plan is remarkably similar. Both of them activate that AMPK low fuel sensor, and both of them suppress tumors. But look closely at that last row. Berberine also directly inhibits the PI3K/AKT pathway. That gives it an even broader, more powerful strike against the cancer's metabolism. It's a subtle but absolutely crucial difference. So what happens to a cancer cell when you cut off its energy supply? It doesn't just go dormant. No, it gets a signal that it's time to self-destruct. And this is how that self-destruction sequence plays out. First, the energy supply gets cut. Then the cell's power plants, its mitochondria, they start to fail and depolarize. After that, all the key growth proteins shut down. This whole cascade of events triggers what's known as apoptosis, which is the cell's own built-in, pre-programmed self-destruct sequence. But it gets even more interesting. Berberine also kicks off another process called autophagy. This is where the starving cancer cell gets so desperate that it literally starts to eat itself, recycling its own parts to try and get some fuel. But in this stressed out state, this last-ditch effort doesn't save it. It actually just speeds up its own death. So, on top of its own ability to take out cancer cells, one of berberine's most powerful roles is as a partner. It's an incredible ally that can make conventional cancer treatments work even better. And what's really remarkable is just how broad its effects seem to be. Studies have shown significant efficacy against a whole spectrum of cancers. We're talking breast, lung, colorectal, prostate, you name it. Its strategy isn't limited to just one type of cancer, because it's attacking a fundamental process that so many of them share. This right here is a crucial point. Berberine acts as a powerful sensitizer. Think of it this way. It weakens the cancer cell's defenses, it lowers its metabolic resilience, and it basically makes the tumor much more vulnerable to attack. It even helps shut down the genes that are responsible for tumor invasion and metastasis, which makes it harder for the cancer to spread in the first place. And this isn't just a theory. We have specific examples. Research shows it can significantly boost the tumor-killing effects of radiation, and it amplifies the power of standard chemo drugs like cisplatin and doxorubicin. So it's not trying to replace them. It's an exceptional adjunctive therapy that makes them better. And if all that wasn't enough, here's a really cool modern twist. Berberine also has a major impact on our gut microbiome. By changing the balance of bacteria in the gut, it seems to actually enhance our body's own immune response against the cancer. So it's adding this whole other powerful layer to the fight. So as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear that Berberine's real strength isn't just one thing. It's this coordinated multi-front attack that dismantles a cancer's very foundations. Now, to make this a bit more practical, a common daily dose you might see in an integrative oncology setting is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams. But of course, and this is so important, this is always part of a comprehensive plan that's managed and prescribed by a medical professional. And this quote really drives that point home. It shows you that the decision to use berberine or metformin, or both, is a careful clinical choice. It's tailored specifically to the patient to best dismantle the energetic foundations of their particular cancer. And that leaves us with a really compelling thought. As we keep using modern science to validate and integrate these ancient compounds like berberine, you just have to wonder, what other powerful strategies have been hiding in nature all this time, just waiting for us to rediscover them? Thanks so much for joining me. Berberine is famous for fighting cancer, but it has a glaring problem. Almost none of it actually absorbs into your bloodstream. While most supplements fail if they don't reach circulation, berberine's power actually relies on staying trapped. Let's follow a single oral dose. Once it makes its way down into your large intestine, it acts directly on your microbiome, actively starving harmful bacteria while feeding the protective strains. But here's the spatial problem. If berberine and these bacteria are physically stuck in the gut, how do they reduce inflammation everywhere else? They don't have to. These protective bacteria act as biological factories, fermenting the fuel into highly potent anti-inflammatory molecules. These are called short-chain fatty acids. These short-chain fatty acids are the actual delivery mechanism. They slip into your bloodstream, carrying those systemic anti-cancer benefits to the rest of your body. So that unabsorbed oral dose from the beginning, the one that never actually made it into your blood, it fought the disease not by attacking it directly, but simply by feeding your gut.